see.
Let me go back to the first question of the briefing. I know you said not a lot's changed since yesterday and that it's a personal matter, but from a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well, is there?
I just said no. I just
Why
answered.
would the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear and I said no. Go ahead, Mary.
Thanks, Green. You said that President Biden was familiar with what his son was going to say on Capitol Hill. If I called my dad and said, I am about to violate a congressional subpoena, he'd probably say, son, you shouldn't do that. Was there any attempt by President Biden to talk Hunter out of it today?
You're going to call your dad Steve?
Call him Dad, usually.
Look, I don't have anything else to add. The president was familiar with what Hunter was going to say today. Look, he's proud of his son. He and the First Lady are proud of his son, how he's rebuilding his life back. He's going to focus on what is needed on the American people. Hunter, and I've said this many times, is a private citizen. And so certainly I would have to refer you to his representatives. I'm just not going to get into private conversations because what you're asking me is actually a private conversation. I'm just not going to get into it.
Right. First briefing since Hunter was indicted again in Los Angeles. Why doesn't President Biden just pardon him?
President, I've been very clear. The president's not going to pardon
And
his son.
one more about this Ukraine money for.
Multiple times the president was not going to leave the race. He ultimately did. You've also said several times that the president would not pardon or commute the sentences for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a
It
no.
will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no. And I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
Will he pardon his son? No. Definitive, to the point. Karine Jean-Pierre, the historic press secretary, in the way that she's defined herself, she was very clear. Joe Biden is not going to pardon Hunter Biden. She said it over the course of the last year. She's doing her job because Joe Biden has said it over the course of the last year. I don't care what happens. I'm not going to pardon my kid. Fast forward, he pardons Hunter Biden. Everybody and their mama knew that Joe Biden was going to pardon Hunter Biden. If they did not know, they are so far in the Democratic cult that they are just in an ideological fog. It is a father, his kid is going to be prosecuted, legitimately so. 1.5 million in taxes, anybody would get hit for that. And the gun charge, maybe. But I'm pointing out that he said he wasn't going to do it. Karine Jean-Pierre goes to the press briefing and she is absolutely hammered over and over. Will you apologize? Will you apologize? Did Joe Biden lie? And they can't own up to the fact that Joe Biden just lied. He just outright lied. It was cynical in its inception. It was purely political in the way that he was operating with it. He lied. His kid, crackhead, got in trouble. Joe Biden, seeing his son in trouble, but has a political liability of not wanting to feed into what Donald Trump says was a rigged political system. So he says, I'm not going to pardon my kid. I'm going to let justice play out. And then the moment where his kid gets convicted in the gun charge, and then immediately pleads guilty in the tax case, he comes out and says, the system is rigged. This is a political prosecution. I believe in the justice system. I just don't believe it in this case. And Democrats turn around and say, well, he didn't lie. He didn't lie. It was clearly a biased political system that went after Hunter Biden. This is nonsense. Joe Biden just fundamentally lied about it. And he had every incentive in the world to do this. He wasn't going to run again. His political career is over with. He may be dead in 5 years because the man is disintegrating before our very eyes. He is effectively a head of cabbage at this point. It is a bit generous for me to say that Joe Biden has the cognitive capability of a head of lettuce. I'm saying that he is literally evaporating before our very eyes. And so, in that sense, if you think about it, it's his kid. He loves his kid. He doesn't want his kid to go to jail. It's humiliating for the family, not to mention, I would imagine, any dad that cares about their kid and have the ability to do something to protect that kid from going to jail, even in that kid's wrong, would typically do so. So, Karine Jean-Pierre has to deal with people asking her these questions about, will you apologize? Will you apologize? She clearly lied to the American public. And again, the reason why they say she lied to the American public is because on a fundamental level, they get that a dad doesn't want his kid to go to jail. The issue is less about that part and more about the fact that Joe Biden so emphatically over the course of the last year lied about it. I want to nail that down. It's not that he did it. In part that he did it, but it's not so much that people don't understand. Let me put it that way. People fully grasp that a dad doesn't want his kid to go to jail, and if the dad had any powers to do anything about it, they would do something about it. That's not really the issue. At least I don't think it is. The issue is that they lied about it. It's that they lied about it. Karine Jean-Pierre, at a press briefing, is hit with question after question after question on this issue of lying to the American public. And I want to show you how it starts first. And then Karine gets to the point of just blatantly lying in the meeting to get from point A to point B. So this is Karine Jean-Pierre starting off the press conference under pressure.
Or won't do something, why should the American people believe him?
I answered that question. I don't have anything else to add. I answered the question.
Can you
I
explain it
answered
in
the
a way that's
question.
understandable?
I can't speak to you understanding the question or not, or my answer or not on this. I don't have anything else to say. I'm not going to relitigate this. I did that on Monday for 30 minutes. I went back and forth. I laid out. I said, please read the president's really comprehensive statement on this. And I even said the last paragraph of that statement, he talks directly to the American people. And that's how I answered that question.
Can you acknowledge that it may have been a mistake by the president, you, to say multiple times unequivocally that he would not pardon his son?
The president laid out in that statement what changed, why his mind changed, how he wrestled with this decision. The president laid that out. I don't have anything else to add.
See, and therein lies the problem with the argument. Nobody believed that Joe Biden would allow Hunter to go to jail. And so for her to say, well, he changed his mind, that becomes problematic in regards to the fact that nobody believes that they were going to allow Hunter Biden to go to jail. So it immediately comes across to the American public as a lie. You are lying. And now you're lying to protect yourself from the fact that you lied. So you're lying about lying. That takes it to a level of parody. I want to play the other clip. Because in the other clip, she gets caught lying about lying, and then she lies on top of that lie. I shit you not. This is Karine Jean-Pierre. You heard her in the beginning, her saying, well, I'm not going to talk about it. Well, she gets dragged into this conversation, being forced to talk about it because this is what people wanted to talk to her about. So, right here, Karine Jean-Pierre lying about lying, and then lies again to get through this press conference.
I'm sure my colleagues have a few follow-ups, just very specifically.
You're not, it's not only colleagues who watch this, there's also the American people. So to be
Exactly.
fair.
And they were
right?
told by you in July
Yeah.
that this would not happen, and it did. Do you,
Okay.
I'm saying, asking for yourself, not the president's statement, but for yourself. Do you
Yeah.
feel like you are owed an apology by the president?
I
Do
just-
you owe an apology to the American people?
Zeke, I just laid out the president's thinking. The president laid it out himself in his own words. He did. He laid out how he wrestled with this decision. He said in his statement, as a president, as a father, he talked about how difficult it was to make this decision. He thought about it this weekend. He did. He thought about it this weekend. He wrestled with it. And there are some, factors, some real factors that he took into consideration. And that's why I keep saying folks should just take a look. Take a look. Read his statement. And I know what I said. I know what the president said. That is where we were at the time. That is where the president was at the time. I am his spokesperson. This weekend, he thought about it. He wrestled with it. He wrestled with it and made this decision. That's what I can tell the American people.
Why should they have any confidence in anything else then?
I think the American people understand, and I think they understand how difficult this decision would be. And I would actually add, and I think it's important to note here as you're asking me these questions, important questions to ask, that there was a poll, a US Gov poll that came out, that some of you all reported on it, and it said 64% of the American people agree with the pardon.
Just so you guys can see the poll that she was referencing. This. 17% strongly approve. 17% somewhat approve. 15% somewhat disapprove. 35% strongly disapprove. 16% not sure. So 34% agree with Joe Biden. This is the poll she was referencing. She just lied. She was even rummaging through her documents as if she was trying to pull the poll up and looking at the poll in order to reference the poll, and got it wrong by a magnificent factor. Only 34% agreed. And I suspect those were just Democrats, because 30% of the population are Democrats. Humiliating. In another instance, Clyburn, and she said, well, Clyburn, he talked to Clyburn, and he told Clyburn how difficult it was. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes for a moment that Joe Biden was going to send his son to jail. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. She can say it all the times that she wants, that Joe Biden wrestled with it. Nobody believes it. A person that would spend a year lying about whether or not they were going to pardon their kid is not going to have difficulty lying about them wrestling with the choice of pardoning their kid. Nobody is going to take this point of view seriously, short of Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar. Everybody else is going to look at this and say, well, he obviously just lied. He was always going to pardon his son. It's just, there's 8 minutes of her lying about whether or not Joe Biden was going to do it. I have a hard time believing that she didn't know that Joe Biden was ultimately going to pardon Hunter Biden. I have a hard time believing that anybody in his family didn't know that Joe Biden was going to pardon Hunter Biden. This is absurd. If you would just be honest with the American public, and I understand that you can't do it, but fact of the matter is, nobody believes you. Everybody thinks you're lying. Everybody should think you're lying. And the reality of it is, there were no downsides to Joe Biden lying about this, considering Joe Biden's political career is over. So he's out the door, politically, and maybe even from a life standpoint. What is his downside. And the reporter asks this kind of weird question like, how are we going to ever believe you again when Joe Biden says X or Y? Joe Biden is on his way out. He is less than a lame duck president at this point. He is on his way out. What does he have to lose in any of this? They have a right to grill her on this. And the administration has a right to be grilled on this front. It was cynical. It was overtly political. And there's something pretty disgusting about it when you really think about it, considering the point of view that Joe Biden had on everybody else's kid that was doing crack or on drugs. They're acting as if, well, he was a crackhead, so we should feel sympathy for him. Joe Biden was in the well of Congress having zero sympathy for the various people who are dealing with drug addiction and everything else. But for his kid, we should have this overwhelming amount of sympathy. Well, I don't. And the fact that the pardon goes all the way back to when they overthrew the Ukrainian government makes it look bad. Because it makes it look as if this is not purely about Hunter Biden, that there's an element of Joe Biden in this. Also, considering Joe Biden was using Hunter to leverage Joe Biden's name to apparently profit in regards to his family. So, Karine Jean-Pierre can sit there and lie all she wants about this. And in fact, again, she's lying about the fact that they lied, which is, again, comically ridiculous on some level. And yet, they can't own it. They're not going to apologize to the American public for that lying. I don't know what that apology would do one way or the other, but still, they're not going to apologize to the American public for that lying. And you have, for all of the talk about Donald Trump being so dishonest, the Biden administration ran with this lie for over a year. For over a year. And now they can't own up to the fact that they lied. The press has a right to grill her on it. And there will be no consequences. And Hunter Biden will be able to get 10 years of criminality, 10 years of prostitution, of crack, of drugs, of not paying taxes, of lying on his gun form. 10 years of criminality, even fair charges. Even fair charges. Because understand, he was working on behalf of foreign governments while Joe Biden was VP, or for the matter, well, I don't know what when he was president, but definitely when he was vice president of the United States, be it China, be it Ukraine, be it Romania. He was working. If it was anybody else, they would have been prosecuted, especially if that person was a Republican. But again, dad is president, so he get 10 years of criminality. I'm sorry, 11 years of criminality for free. They lied. Full stop. They lied. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to bed. Have a good one, all.